Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. We are looking ahead to game week 28. It's a blank game week. A number of teams are missing this week, but the team news is all important. So we've got the latest lineup and injury developments thanks to our resident lineup and injury developments guy, Neale. Neale, welcome. How are you?
Downgraded from guru to guy.
Yes, you've been
not too bad,
upgraded,
Joe.
I'd say.
Not too bad, thanks, Joe. Yeah, back with you this week. Well done to Mark for filling in last week. I was unable to turn up as I usually do, but back unflagged this week and ready to go.
Great stuff, great stuff. Just before we move on, just welcome those who've joined us in the live chat, and also a reminder, do press that like button and do remember to subscribe. If you're not subscribing, your friends aren't subscribing, get them to subscribe. Also, we've got a little podcast available icon in this screen if you look up there. Basically, we convert all of these videos to podcasts, so if you miss them and you want to catch up a bit later, for all our videos, you can listen on the podcast as well. Welcome to Ian, the Honey Monster, the actual Honey Monster, that is, Tachon, Neale, FPL Sparta, FPL Popo, SBAM, No Name, Rico, Fraser, Tony, Jaffeld, and many more. Thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll have all the team news and lineup developments that you want. Neale, let's start with your team, Newcastle. They visit Nottingham Forest. Now, Nottingham Forest away, they're terrible, but at home they're pretty good. So what's the latest with the home side there? What can Newcastle expect to face there?
Well, if you apply the usual reverse psychology to Steve Cooper, they can expect to face Brennan Johnson. That's because Cooper said that he was unlikely to face Newcastle tonight, and we know from experience that Cooper tends to say one thing and mean the other. So he did say that it wasn't a completely impossible prospect. He said there's a small chance of that happening.
Okay.
Do not be surprised to see him in the squad tonight, even if he is 25% flag off the back of that. Otherwise, it's sort of as you were. So Bolly, McKenna, Henderson, Bianconi, Richards all out. Chris Wood can't play, of course. He's a loanee from Newcastle. So
he's still a loanee, because I was a bit confused. He hasn't been bought. He is a loanee.
It's one of those loans with an obligation to buy at the end of it, so he's still technically a Newcastle player for the rest of this season. He couldn't play either way because he's injured. He's picked up an injury as well. I think Awani's out as well. Hennessy's a doubt. He's a backup keeper regardless. Kouyaté could be back, but Johnson's the main one from an FPL perspective because he has been in decent form.
Nice, yeah. Okay, and as for Newcastle, Joe Ellington is suspended still. That's correct, I think.
Yep.
Isn't it? Yep,
he is.
And yeah, what other news there?
Yeah, so he's still out, as is Anthony Gordon and Emil Kraft. This is where it gets interesting, really, because this was a press conference held yesterday, and Howe mentioned about knocks and some players missing training this week. So a little bit of detective work. We logged on and we saw that Wilson wasn't pictured. That's not unusual for him because he tends to dip in and out of training. But he has actually confirmed today on a podcast he's on, a regular podcast, that he hasn't trained in a week because of illness. So I don't know if that's long COVID or something, but I don't think he'll feature certainly from the start anyway, because of Isaac's form. Longstaff wasn't pictured either, so he could be one of the knocks that Howe was mentioning. Of course, not being seen in training ground doesn't mean necessarily that you're out. Someone who was pictured, this is probably where a lot of the questions are, it was Fabian Schär.
Yes,
who knows a lot of people's second Newcastle defender after Trippier. So he was pictured. This was a collection of images from Wednesday, and he was involved there and bibbed and everything. However, he was omitted the following day from the Switzerland squad for the upcoming internationals, and they said that he's got a recurring foot problem that needs treatment. So that he's now flagged as a result of that. So whether something's happened in the interim 24 hours, the 24 hours between the training ground imagery and then that Swiss announcement. I know Newcastle have posted pictures today, but that's the Wednesday collection, so that's nothing new. So he is obviously a little bit of a doubt if he's ruled out that Swiss squad. It's a recurring thing. It's a bit like the thing that Madison's got, and Mitrovic, the managing these issues week to week. So, but it's odd that a player is allowed to play for his domestic team and then in advance ruled out of
Yeah,
international duty.
it's usually the other way
So
round.
unless there's a yeah, exactly. Unless there's a lot of goodwill between Newcastle and Switzerland, then there's obviously a bit of concern about Fabian Schär. It is the early kick-off tonight, so we might get a bit of a heads up. But he is flagged as a result of that. At least he was cited in training, for the optimists amongst you.
Okay, so yeah, there'll be a lot of teams fielding 10, maybe 11 players, but no bench. So obviously those who are
Yeah,
free hitting, probably an advantage there if they're going for share. They can
yeah,
have a backup on the bench. But yeah, I think for
yeah.
most of us who aren't free hitting, if we do have share, we might not have a backup. So that's something to be aware of. As you said, pay attention to any sort of team leaks we might get ahead of the deadline, which is at 6:30. So let's press on ahead of that deadline. Got Aston Villa against Bournemouth. Home side first. Then Donker's got a hand injury sustained in a domestic incident. What's that about?
Yeah, it did bring to mind the Spinal Tap quote about the bizarre gardening accident.
Yeah,
I don't know what's happened. Yeah, and of course there's a myriad instances of hilarious home injuries, like the jar of salad cream. Was that Dave Besant, wasn't it? And
oh
then the bottle of
yeah,
aftershave.
yeah,
Canizares dropped on his foot.
yeah.
So it could be one of those for the Hall of Fame, but he's out anyway. He
Mm,
remains out with whatever the problem is
okay.
on his hand, and it's just him and there's two more we're forgetting about already.
Coutinho
Let me
still
go
out, I
down to
presume.
Aston. It is Coutinho, and it is Coutinho and Kamara,
Ah, cool.
two midfielders. Both of them other side of the international break now, so it's just those three who are out, plus Jed Steer, the backup goalie, and
Okay.
everyone else is fine by the sounds of it.
Okay, and Bournemouth. For my memory, the Bournemouth manager is not great with
No,
truth. It's always been
no,
saying,
he's
but
not. No, we're not seeing. Yeah,
yeah.
he's belongs to that club of Cooper and Moyes. So he did tell us that Traore is returning to training this week. He's been, I think, partly involved and could come into contention because he hasn't been out that long. Tavernier is definitely out still, as is Zabani, the new signing. So they're other side of international break. No update on Stanislas. No mention of Smith, who came off last weekend, but I think he was pictured in training. And the other line of note, again, this is no interest of fantasy managers. Zamora was out of the squad last weekend. He's fit and available, but I think he's subject to an ongoing contract dispute, and it doesn't sound like he's going to be considered for first team selection.
Okay, so I think Billing and Solanke are probably the two main players I've seen people considering, and no mention of them. Obviously, they're fine as far as we
No,
know. They're absolutely fine.
no mention.
So you're free to press the button if you're considering one of those two. Brentford against Leicester. A lot of us have Brentford players. Leicester are a team of interest. Game week 28 they play. This is coming up now, and they have a double in game week 29. I myself have pressed the button already on James Maddison coming in. He could be playing in a number 10 role, I see on the Twitter rumours as well. But as you said, he's managing this ongoing problem. I hope there's no problems with James Maddison this time around. What's happening?
Not that I've seen so far. You might be alluding to Sam Martin there, who's the Twitter's resident in the know.
Yes.
And he said earlier today, I think he thinks everything's fine with Barnes, Madison, and Ian. He's also hinted that there might be a start for Everson between the sticks as well, which means
Ooh.
Danny Ward dropping out
Ooh.
just at a time. Can you imagine if you've gone Sanchez and Ward on your game week
Or
26 wildcard?
Steele and Ward as well. I mean,
Yeah.
or any
Well, yeah,
player,
exactly.
keeper that's not playing.
Especially if you're bench boosting in 29, you wanted Ward to be in place there. But there's the suggestions, and it's only that it's come from Sam Martin. It was usually reliable, to be fair. That Everson's got a good chance of playing tomorrow. So that's one nugget from him. In terms of the team news, Wout Faes is suspended. That's a one-game ban. Tielemans and Justin still injured. Christensen's probably not going to be back. Evans has had a setback, another one. So they're really short of centre halves. Probably going to be a Marty playing alongside a Suter. And apart from that, I think that's it.
Okay, and for Brentford as well. I mean, we're well stocked up on Brentford, whether we like it or not at the moment. But who may be unavailable for this one?
Well, Lewis Potter and Strakosha we knew were already out. They've been joined by two new injuries. Thankfully, anyone's owning in FPL. But Janelt, who's got a knee issue, that's still being assessed. That's from midweek. and Christopher Ager has got a calf problem. He's been playing backup of late anyway, so they're both out, along with the medium-term ones. And Mads Rorslev is touch and go as well. Again, someone who's been on the periphery of things. So all your key FPL assets there are injury-free by the sound of it.
Good stuff. Tony on 9 yellow cards. So if he picks up a yellow card,
He
just
is.
a note.
Good point.
If he picks up a yellow card in this one, then he is surplus to requirements because he'll miss the next 2, which is the entire of the Game Week 29 double. But if he doesn't, then, well, it's a nervous time for the double if you hang on to him. Let's move on to Southampton against Spurs. Let's go for the home side first. Livramento, he's sort of long-term injury at the moment, but who else is joining him on the sidelines, perhaps?
Yeah, I think he's been out all season. It's just him and Larios. They're the two who are out. So 2 fullbacks out, 2 fullbacks past fit, and that is Walker Peters and Maitland-Niles. They were previously flagged, but they are now available for selection. Okay.
For Spurs, fingers crossed for Harry Kane, because I'm probably going to captain him for Game Week 28.
Same here.
That's good. Well, with great minds and all that. But who will ably assisting all the goals he's going to score for us?
Yeah. Now, this is another sort of slight talking point of the last 24 hours. So we'll start with what we know, and that is Sessegnon, Bentancur, Lloris and Bissouma are still out.
Yep.
Emerson Royal's been back in training, and he was previously flagged just 75%, and he's been back in training this week, so it sounds like he's fine. Now, there was suggestions and indeed evidence that Son wasn't pictured in training ground images on Wednesday, but this was a YouTube compilation of the training ground, and I think possibly some stills as well. No sign of Son then. However, that was Wednesday, and Conte gave his press conference a day afterwards, and he said there were no new injuries. So we've seen this before. Players can miss training for an absolute abundance of reasons. It could be a commercial thing they're doing, or it could be just personal training. If someone's got a niggle, they'll be taken out of the rigors of team training and just allowed to recuperate. So it could be anything. But I just thought I'd bring it to your attention anyway, because it has been mentioned on the Scout comments section and elsewhere. But if we take Conte at his word, then everyone bar the 4 medium-term absentees off fit.
Okay, yeah, obviously Son, for those free hitting this week, is actually probably quite a shrewd purchase, actually, because you might not want him long-term, but for this game against Southampton, it's just rolling back the years. We hope that Spurs have another one of those games against Southampton. They might not, though. Wolves against Leeds. This, if match of the day's on, this looks like it's going to be the end of it. So let's have a look at the home side first. What shape are Wolves in?
Not bad shape. They've lost Hwang again to another injury. He just came back last week, but he's sustained a fresh problem. He's out. So he joins the 4 that were already out. That's Costa, Bueno, Chiquinho and Kalajic as well. Traore is Boubacar Traore, sorry. He's back in training, but not quite ready. So 6 out, but Sarabia is fit. He missed out last weekend, but he's available.
Rightio. And for Leeds as well, from my memory, that's another economical with the truth style of press conference there. In fact, one time he just said, "I'm not telling you." But has he said anything this time?
He's opening up a bit now, yeah. For the first couple of weeks, he just said, "I'm not going to discuss injuries. I don't like to do it." He is starting to discuss it a bit more. May not be full disclosure, just little nuggets. So he told us that Adams is out. We heard that anyway from the club.
Oh, okay.
So Tyler Adams is going to be the other side of the international break. So that's him, Forshaw and Dallas who are out. Cooper is back. He's been out for a month. Again, this is Gracia confirming this. So he is starting to open up a bit and tell us a bit more information now.
Okay, well, that's good. That will please whoever's doing the championship fantasy league next season. I know I'm a bit mean to it, but Leeds it's not Leeds' fault, it's his. Okay, let's move on to Chelsea against Everton. But quite a bit of news from Chelsea. Let's start with I haven't got on the screen actually is about Reece James because he was ill last week.
Yeah,
but has he? I understand he's back in training.
He is, yeah, and that's the best indication that we've got of him being fine because he wasn't mentioned today by Potter, certainly by name, but we have seen him. We have seen him in training ground imagery, and frustratingly, I think Potter was just about to tell us that he was fit because he said, "Let me find the quote." He said, Thiago is still away. Azpilicueta is still away. Apart from that, then you got interrupted by another question. So you might have been about to say that everyone else is fit.
Except.
Except, yeah. I'll tell you the players who aren't fit because we know that Sterling and Mount are still out.
Okay.
They are going to miss England's internationals as well. So it's those two and Thiago, Azpilicueta and Broja. 5 definitely out. Mendy's been back in training this week, so he could be on the bench. Kante's been back in training as well. He's got a chance, according to Potter. Same with James, of course, even though he wasn't mentioned. We've seen him on the training ground. It was just illness. And Fofana, who I think is flagged as well, he came off against Leicester last weekend, but again, seen in training. So you assume everything's fine. Okay. And I think that's it, apart from Aubameyang, who's just, surplus to requirements anyway.
No. Okay. And for Everton, the ongoing Calvert-Lewin saga, will he start? Will he play? Do we know anything?
No, well, it seems less optimistic than it was about 2 weeks ago when he was apparently on the cusp of return, but it sounds like he's had some kind of setback. Dyche was saying yesterday that he's felt something, so they're just taking a step back and being careful with it because he's had a number of issues, not just one thing. It's his hamstring now, but there's other things as well this season, and he's not even guaranteed to return in Gameweek 29 either, according to Dyche. So it drags on. Otherwise, they're in pretty good shape. Townsend, of course, has been out for over a year. He's the only one who's out, apart from Calvert-Lewin, and Patterson is almost back. Dyche said he's in and around it, so could be involved in the squad very, very soon.
Okay, and final match. So we can really rattling through this because of the blank fixtures. So no Pep, no Klopp, none of the sort of traditional late Friday morning press conferences that we usually get for this. So this is Arsenal against Crystal Palace. Let's start with Arsenal first because they played Europe last night. They were knocked out. And there were some injury concerns for 2 of their defenders in particular. Yeah. So what is the latest?
Yeah, so unfortunately, with it being a Thursday night game, Arteta's GW28 section of his press conference, that's embargoed till Saturday night. So no use to us now. We won't hear that before the deadline. However, he did actually mention the 2 players who were injured in the normal section of that presser. So this is Tomiyasu and Saliba. Of course, Tomiyasu's fringe player anyway, and it sounds like his is the worst injury. It looks pretty serious according to Arteta. It's a knee problem, and he was on crutches in the players' one last night. So it sounds like he's out. Saliba, Arteta said was discomfort, so maybe that was just precautionary, that withdrawal. I saw one of the on-site reporters saying that he hadn't seen any strapping, but it's a back problem, so I don't know how you'd see strapping there anyway. So it doesn't sound as serious as Tomiyasu. Obviously, some concern because that's less than 72 hours before the game. So he's now flagged. Apart from that, El Neni's out and Nketiah still out. Everyone else, I think, that I've not mentioned is fit, injury-free, that is. But they may be a bit fatigued, of course, because they went extra time last night. And there was a number of players who lasted the full 2 hours. One of them was Martinelli, as well as Zinchenko and Gabriel as well. Jesus made his first start this year. He came off to 45 minutes. That was pre-planned. So, yeah, a slight bit of... the thing we didn't want to see last night was the game going extra time with penalties, and it did. The good news is that Saka, Odegaard and Trossard were all on the bench to start with and then came on later in the game. Okay. So it's just Martinelli. You think, even if he does start, there might be a bit of an early sub if things are going well, just because of possible fatigue.
Okay, and we've said the most distressing news till last, the Crystal Palace news. We wanted that Nathan Ferguson update. We're not going to get it because they haven't got a manager to give it. Patrick Vieira has succumbed once again. A Palace player or manager succumbed to the might of Brighton, and he's been sacked promptly after losing to them. And so Patrick Vieira is gone. There was no press conference. Do we know anything about the Crystal Palace squad?
Not much, nothing recent anyway. I can tell you what we heard after Wednesday night, which was the second part of Gameweek 27. So Hughes and MacArthur, they missed the entirety of double Gameweek 27 with illness. More importantly, Guaita was part of that squad to face Brighton. And Vieira, in his final media conference, he said that he wasn't sure if he's going to be back for Arsenal. So with Johnston out with a calf problem, it could again be the teenage goalie, Joe Whitworth, who was in goal to face Brighton. Didn't do too badly. Maybe he could have done better with a goal, but apart from that, was solid enough. So it could be him between the sticks. we do know one thing for definite, and that is Lokonga. He can't face Arsenal because it's his parent club and he's on loan.
Okay, rightio. So what we'll do is, as ever, we'll have a little roundup of the news. So once again, I'll just remind people to like and subscribe. Obviously, do press that like button. Also, a reminder about the podcast as well. All our videos, if you miss them, or you prefer to listen to them commuting or walking the dog like I do, podcasts are available there. And also a thank you to those who've joined us a bit later in the live chat. Jojo has given us a particular good luck to myself and you, Neil. So thanks a lot for that. And J77 Lag has pointed out that Patrick Vieira has, of course, been sacked on St. Patrick's Day. Oh dear. Team news roundup. Fit to play. Cooper for Leeds, Sarabia for Wolves, Maitland-Niles, and it's Walker-Peters as well, I would imagine. Is fine. Questionable. So Johnny Evans is a setback. Emerson Royale, we don't know, but could be back. Saliba, he's got discomfort, so we're not sure about him. Guita's hamstring could be a problem. He could play though. Obviously Walker Peters is still questionable, but could play. Kante fitness might play. James was ill. He wasn't mentioned, so I put him at questionable. But he's more like move him to fit to play, sort of hovering in between them. He's just questionable because he's James. Major doubt. Patterson's still got fitness problems. Calvert-Lewin's got his injury problems still. Brennan Johnson's groin could keep him out, but we don't know because of the economical truth from the Nottingham Forest camp. Tommy Asu, that sounds serious. I put him as major doubt, but I would safely say he's going to be out. Joe Ellington suspended for Newcastle. Chris Wood's ineligible against his parent club at Forest. Anthony Gordon's still got ankle problems there. Janelle at Brentford is injured. Nketiah's ankle's looks like it's going to keep him out. Lokonga is ineligible. Hwang's injury will keep him out. Bueno, hamstring, he will be out as well. Sterling for Chelsea, he continues to be out with the hamstring problem. Mount's injury will keep him out and will keep him out of England duty, I think, as well. And then Donker, mysterious domestic hand incident. So we don't know what's happened there, but he is not available. I think we've got everything there. I don't think I've missed anything out. So, Neil, good luck with the game week. Good luck with your decision to captain who I'm captaining. And good luck everyone who's joined us in the live chat. Hope it goes well for you. We'll see you after the international break for the next team news ahead of game week 29. See you soon.
Bye-bye.